Can you all hear me okay if I stand here? Is that picking me up okay? So I'm Siobhan, Head of SEO at BrandContent. This is Mike, our UX Director. Is this work? A little bit about BrandContent, I won't bore you with all the details. We're basically a content marketing agency based in Cardiff. We actually won Best Small Agency in the UK at the International Marketing Awards last year. I won't read you through all that. So just to cover off today, we'll be looking at the latest trends in voice search and voice assistants, how you can leverage them to reach customers. So firstly, what is voice search? You probably already all know. It's the process of searching through your voice rather than typing desktop or mobile. From an SEO perspective, it means you need to optimize content on your site in a more conversational way. I'll take you through like a few things that you can do. Just so that when someone searches through an assistant, it's your content that's the source of the information. So we've done a little bit of research ourselves into voice search and voice assistants. We found out that more than a fifth of UK adults use voice search several times a day. It just goes to show really that the way people find your content is constantly changing. So we use everything from traditional desktop and laptop, and increasingly voice search to discover new brands, find solutions to problems, and to research and buy products.
So for those who don't know, a voice assistant is a device that has the ability to listen, action, and respond to a command. There's two main companies in this area, one of them being obviously Google and Amazon. A voice assistant can be on your phone, so the equivalent like Siri, and it also could be on your TV or in your car, so it's the technology behind it. Apple and Microsoft also have an offering. Yeah, so Apple and Microsoft also have an offering, but they haven't really developed in this area at the moment. So you might be thinking, well, where can a voice app work for a company? We see it being suitable for a range of industries and topics. So it could be the case of working for healthcare, through to charity. It could be in your car, travel, planning, navigation. So there's just a few examples of where we see a voice app being useful. You might be thinking, well, what's the difference between voice search and voice assistant apps? Basically, voice search, as again, you probably all know, voice search is a way for people to discover your brand, where you need to optimize on your website, you optimize the content. So when someone searches through an assistant, your site is the source of information, where a voice assistant app is a separate channel. So it's equivalent to have like a mobile app, you have a website, and then you can also have then a voice app. So by having this joint up approach, what we're saying is that people could potentially discover your brand through voice search, and on a day-to-day basis, then customers could engage with a voice app. In terms of the market landscape, there's about 60,000 skills available in the UK right now on the Alexa store. This usage has doubled in 2018 to give you an idea of how fast it's grown. If you look at just the university market, I'm not sure if there's any university people in here, but universities, there's 26,000 universities in worldwide. And right now, there's only 190 university apps on the Alexa marketplace right now. In terms of transport, so if you're thinking Great Western and Trainline, they don't actually have a voice app right now. But what we're seeing is like National Rail, Virgin Media are now offering a voice app. Surprisingly, you might be thinking, well, not everyone's got access to voice-enabled technology. Well, actually, from our research, again, we found that more than 2/3 of adults have access to a voice assistant. And as I said, it could be on their phone, it could be on their desktop computer. So actually, it's quite a lot of people have got ability to search and discover brands through voice. Now, in terms of the voice assistant app skills, so this is a diagram taken from the Alexa skill marketplace. This is based on 2017 stats, so this has changed a little bit, but these are the sort of latest figures we could find. So what you can see is actually that the news and games and trivia is where a lot of the skills are right now, because they tend to be quite an easier marketplace to develop in. But actually what's interesting is if you look towards the bottom of that category, what you see is connected car. There's only 21 Alexa voice app skills right now in the marketplace. And when you think about the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store, that's quite a small amount of people. And again, from our research, by 2022, there's predicted to be 90% of new cars being built will have voice-enabled technology being built into the cars. So again, this presents a huge opportunity for brands and businesses to start thinking about how voice can be part of their longer-term strategy going forward. In terms of how voice has grown over the years, it already sort of kicked off back in 2011 with the introduction of Siri. And then as we moved into 2012, 2013, then that's when Google and Amazon started getting into this marketplace. Then we get into 2015, which was the sort of era of the smart home and all that side of things. So Google brought out Google Assistant. And then as we move into now 2017, 2018, 2019, this is where, as I said, we're starting to see brands like LG, Sony, and then car companies like Mercedes, BMW starting to think about actually how can we build voice into the dashboards of our cars and how can we build this onto the TVs. So what we're seeing now is brands starting to use this technology in their product offering. In terms of the smart speaker user penetration by brand, in 2018, this is based on 2018 stats and then 2019. What you see is Amazon have taken a clear dominance in this market right now, holding about, in 2018, holding about 68% of share. Then Google taking about 26%, and then the other being 7%, and that's why I said it is Apple and Microsoft have got offerings, but they're clearly not looking into this market right now. As we move into 2019, though, what you can see is Amazon is starting to lose their market share, and Google starting to catch up, which you sort of Google to expect to do, really. And also you can see the other market about 10%. So again, more brands coming into this market, you're starting to see the market share starting to change, and this is what we'll see over the next couple of years. Maybe Amazon will still keep that market dominance, but don't be surprised if Google, Apple, doing what they do, spend a lot of money, acquire brands, etc. So watch this chart as it changes. So how are brands using voice assistants so far? So again, from our research, we saw, we looked at sort of more of a fintech market. So we looked at Aviva, Capital One and PayPal having basic apps on the marketplace, more of like a placeholder for not offering the full product features, but at least some of them. Also, a lot of the voice apps right now have got a mixture of reviews, and a lot of people aren't sure whether it sort of fulfills the requirements. And as we looked earlier, the advanced category right now, the quiz-based apps, and a personal favourite to mine, because I use voice, be a bit contradictory if you're not to use it. But one of my favourite apps is like the Pointless app, because that's quite a nice experience from a voice point of view. So being in Wales, you might be thinking, well, what about languages? It's not purely everyone speaks English. So Google and Amazon only support right now English, French, German, Italian, Japanese and Spanish, so those sort of main languages. In theory, you could pre-record responses. So if you wanted to respond in Welsh, then you could play back audio in Welsh. So it wouldn't be the smart speaker talking, it would be a pre-recorded MP3 file. But it's reported by the end of 2019, Google will support up to 30 languages. So they are looking into extending the languages market. The only problem is Welsh is probably not on their top list right now, but we hope that through exposure and sort of saying to Google, well, there is a clear need for Welsh, then you never know what will happen. So I'm going to hand over to Siobhan now, who's going to talk about voice search and how to reach customers through this channel.
So just a few examples of the kind of questions you need to start asking when it comes to voice search. So things like, how are my customers using voice search at the moment? How are your target audience using it at the moment? And how might they start using it in the future? So it might be different, completely different to how they're using it now as months or even years to come. Again, from our research, which I'll keep plugging, 2/3 of adults aged 45 to 54 understand what voice search is, but less than half, 44% of adults aged 18 to 24 do. So it just goes to show that it is kind of the older generation that are leading the way, them and of course millennials. So again, thinking about what would some of their voice searches be when they're at home in different situations and in the car with their friends, how might they vary? And would these searches be important to your product or service, or is there a way that you can twist it so that it becomes important to them? More than a quarter of men make use of voice search frequently compared to just 13% of women. As I mentioned, review when, where and how people are using it. As Mike mentioned, 90% of cars will offer some form of voice recognition technology in the future. So it's, again, as I mentioned about different ways that people are going to be searching in different times, in different locations that they've not had the opportunity to do before. Think about what results are populating for the search queries at the moment and the ways that you can compete with them, and make sure you optimize the content to reflect the new way of searching. So how important is user intent? Mike will go into this in a bit more detail in the voice assistance section, but people unconsciously change their behaviour when they're searching through their voice. Through text, obviously, usually 1 to 3 words, but when it's spoken, you probably already know all this, it's up to several. People are starting with who, what, when, where, why, so it's a lot clearer what the user intent is, and people expect the search engine to understand what answers are needed. So some few ideas on how to optimise your site for voice search. Once you understand what your audience is and the intent, then it's a matter of obviously conducting keyword research in a way that we might not necessarily have done in the past, and optimising the content to reflect that, so more question-based. Through our research, Wikipedia is actually the most sourced site of information at the moment for voice search results, but outside of there, there's a few things that you can do. So the first one, featured snippets. I won't talk to you all about what featured snippets are, but usually they're 40 to 50 words in length, and more than 40% of all voice search answers actually come from the featured snippets at the moment, and then beyond that, it's top 5 positions of Google. So just when you're creating content, make sure you keep it simple, to the point. The average voice search result at the minute is 29 words. Then next, make sure you optimise for mobile. 60% of voice searches at the moment are coming from mobile, so think mobile first. Just doing your general housekeeping for SEO. I mean, a lot of these are things that you should already be doing in your SEO strategy. Secondly, page speed. The average voice search result page loads in 4.6 seconds, which is actually 52% faster than the average page at the moment, which is at 6 seconds. Keywords, as I mentioned, it's expanding, query length's expanding, it's longer, more descriptive, it's more conversational language. So, for example, you might say through voice, hey Google, find a Mexican restaurant for 2 near me, whereas in the past you'd just type restaurant near me and then filter down those options manually. You've kind of got one opportunity to get that answer rather than scrolling through the pages. Then the next one, it's not moving. Schema, take advantage of schema. So again, probably teaching you to suck eggs. It's a bit of coding that basically describes the data on the page. It makes it easier for Google to understand and boost your visibility. So basically just providing search engines and making it as easy as possible for them to understand what the content is as quickly and as succinctly as possible. And then finally, location-based searches. At the moment, majority of searches are location-based, so they're more near me. At the moment, it's large names, large brands that are leading the way. But don't make the mistake that assuming this will continue, it's a massive opportunity for smaller local businesses to start actually competing in the search engine results. So it's obviously things like Google My Business. It's pretty straightforward. So just some key actions. Firstly, summarise answers within on-site copy to around 30 words in length. Optimise your site for mobile by optimising images, minimising code, reducing redirects. Improve your page speed by optimising images again, aim for under 5 seconds. Conduct fresh keyword research, focusing on longer queries and questions. Take advantage of schema, make it as easy as possible for Google to understand your content. And if you're a local business, think about updating your profile on Google My Business.
Right, thanks, Siobhan. So in this last section, we'll look at how to engage customers through a voice assistant app. So as mentioned, voice assistant apps is kind of like having a mobile app. So what we'll look at in the next couple of slides is what makes a good voice assistant app, how can an app work for you, and looking at the whole voice technology and the experience behind it. Just for some context, though, first of all, here's quite a nice quote from external research, is that voice interfaces have been adopted been adopted faster than nearly any other technology in history, which is quite hard to believe when you think about how fast we started buying desktop computers and laptops through to mobile apps, then tablets. So it's a good bit of context about what this channel will look like in 2 years' time, even a year's time. So as said, so we've got the desktop computer was 1977 to about 2007. Then we've got mobile, 2007, 2018. And then what we're seeing then is 2018 is going to be the era of voice. Now, we're not saying that everyone's going to drop the desktop computers, drop their mobile phones and go with just ditch all for voice apps. What we're seeing is actually people starting to use voice as a natural part of the whole experience of engaging with brands. First of all, we'll look at a demonstration of the components of a command. So this is essential for anyone interested in developing a voice app or even voice search, understanding how does Amazon and Google start to think about how they process the question and responses and what's the logic behind it. So if we look at this question that a person might ask a voice app is, what is the weather in Cardiff tomorrow? Which is a pretty basic command, but what we'll do is break it down and see what's going on in the background in the logic. So first of all, you've got what's called the utterance. So this could be anything a person says. So this could be like, show me the news, or set a time of 15 minutes. So the whole sentence is the utterance. Then we've got what's the intent. So in this case, the person's intent, they want to know what the weather is in Cardiff. So the intent is weather in Cardiff. But actually a little bit deeper, what we're seeing here is actually the entities. They don't want to know generally what's the weather tomorrow. They've asked specifically, they want to know tomorrow what is the weather in Cardiff. So these are the sort of three fundamentals of a person asking a voice app. You've got the utterance, which is the whole sentence. You've got the intent, so what they intend to do, and then you've got the logic, which says the entities which manipulate that intent. The other thing to think about is, what would a voice app opening command be? So it's time to think about how if you go on your mobile phone and you tap an app, that's the equivalent of the opening command. The only difference in mind really is you've got to make it memorable and you've got to make it easy for someone to actually open the command. You don't want a really complicated opening command and people not really remembering what that is or find it difficult for the Alexa or Google to process it. Also, it doesn't need to be a brand name. We're saying here Alexa open The Guardian, but it could literally just be Alexa open, the news. It could be open my Mercedes app or whatever it could be. It doesn't need, I said Mercedes, it could be like car app or something like that. So it doesn't need to be a brand name. The main thing is it's got to be memorable and easy to say. So you might be thinking, well, why are voice assistants useful at all for customers? We've got mobile apps, we've got a website, we don't want to develop a voice app. Well, we see it being sort of boiled down to four things. First of all, speed. It's a lot quicker for us to speak and people can engage with brands quicker and more often rather than searching in Google or trying to open their phone. Which brings us to the next point, which is hands-free. You could be cooking, again, thinking about connected car, thinking about when using a mobile app or using a website is just not practical, so it's hands-free talking to a brand. Third, intuitiveness. It's we learn to speak from a young age, obviously, and it's just naturally intuitive for us to talk to, in this case, things, but we talk to humans on a day-to-day basis. And also empathy. Is one of the things you find tricky with websites and mobile apps is tone of voice. Well, in this case, it's literally taking tone of voice and thinking about actually you can start to talk to customers like you understand their situation and context. And it's a really powerful ability with voice. What you'll find though is not purely voice only and then purely visual only. There is an overlap. So you've got voice only technology, which is like your Echo Dots or your Google Home. So these are like the little devices that just sit in the corner. Then you've got what's called like voice forward. So maybe it's the case that voice is the normal way you would engage with the sort of app. So this, again, connect a car, or it's the case you would see the visual but not necessarily engage with it. So that's like a voice forward, and that's the crossover. And then you've got visual only, which is, as we've got now, like our phones and desktops, and that's just purely a visual only experience. So when designing a voice app, you got to really think about designing across the whole experience rather than just focusing on what's the voice only sort of experience. You got to think about visually, how does it look, how does it sound, and really start to think about that whole experience. Also, you might be thinking, well, what makes a voice assistant app conversational? What we found is a lot of voice apps right now just aren't very engaging and just are a bit boring. So there's 3 things to take away, which is, first of all, a conversation remembers the past conversations. So this could be your favourite song, your favourite takeaway. So a voice app should really sort of remember that past conversation to have that personalised experience. Remember what was said earlier in the conversation. So, for example, if you are going to buy an item through a voice app, then you want it to have an understanding of that. What was the last question? What's the next question? And start to really have that understanding of what is happening in the whole conversation rather than in the moment, and ask relevant questions in the moment. And finally, contextual awareness. So again, it's understanding that person's desires, feelings. What are they trying to ask? What type of mood are they in? For example, if your voice app, you're sort of searching for the brand in the morning, you might be in a rush, you're trying to get ready to go out and go to work. So you want to have quick, sharp, short responses. Whereas in the evening, your voice app might be a more personalised, engaging voice app, which has a bit more atmosphere because you're relaxing and it's thinking about actually the environment and when the person's starting to talk to your brand. One of the interesting psychology aspects of voice apps and how we talk to voice assistants is what's sort of known as the Cooperative Principle. One of the things that you might find is actually you start to say please and thank you to your voice apps, even though the sort of technology, you do say please and thank you and sort of treat your voice app, your voice assistant, which doesn't really, well, at the moment, doesn't appreciate you saying thank you and please. But what actually we're doing in the background is we're leveraging our sort of existing model of how we talk to a human, and we're using that as a way to talk to our voice app. So that's the sort of psychology behind it. And it's really interesting thinking about when you talk, when you respond to a person, how do you sort of respond? Do you say thank you? Do you say please? Do you basically talking back to them as a human rather than talking to them like a robot, rather than a cold approach. So that's a cooperative principle, and again, it's thinking about that response. Obviously, e-commerce and money, it's obviously a huge part on how we can start to make a voice app a profitable channel. Amazon is ahead in this space with the ability to buy items through the Amazon store, obviously. And they also got the ability to have in-store purchasing, so you could do microtransactions and sort of deliver premium content. So if you had a news website, you could offer a free website, free experience, and then you can offer a paid experience. On the Google Home, in the US at the moment, they've released Google Express, which is basically their answer to the Amazon store. The potential for e-commerce for Alexa skills could be a very lucrative area. So again, if you release a new product, if you got premium features, then you can start to think about, like I said, in-store purchasing, microtransactions. So that's the e-commerce side of things. Now, voice isn't obviously, again, it's not the only solution for your company, your brand. It's not always ideal. Some examples could be public spaces. The last thing you want to be doing is to be shouting your Amazon device in the middle of an open office because you're going to be annoying your colleagues. If your main customer base wouldn't feel comfortable speaking. So again, it's just doing that bit of user research and understanding, would a person find a voice app skill useful? If so, okay, we'll explore it. Some people prefer texting, so make sure you keep those options available. Again, it's sort of reaffirming that fact that we're not saying ditch mobile apps and ditch websites. We're saying it's just part of the natural channels that you should maybe look at. And privacy, a lot of people are getting aware of how their data and how things are being recorded. So if you are recording and storing data, think a little bit smart about it and just be upfront and say, look, we're recording this data because we do X, Y, and Z. So privacy, really important, doesn't need any more reaffirming than that. Finally, think, one more slide, think about the flow of the conversation. So when designing a voice app, make sure to get everyone involved. It's quite easy to go, oh, this voice app thing, we'll just chuck it to developers, they can come back in 2 weeks' time and see what they've come. Actually, no, what's best is to get your developers, designers, content writers, get everyone involved in this voice app, because you're thinking about, how do I design a voice app? How do I build it? How does it sound? How does it respond? So it's thinking about the whole experience. Plan for errors. There will be times when a voice assistant just won't understand it. And again, it's not saying 404 can't find it. Actually, you've got to sort of respond in a human way. You've got to say, look, we couldn't help process this thing, but we can help you with this. So again, it's a response to errors and plan for them. And be consistent. If you've got a team of people working on it, again, tone of voice, content strategy, really important, because you don't want multiple designers creating their own responses, because then you have a bit of a mixed voice app and it doesn't sound very consistent. So consistency is really important. Last sort of little tip from me is, how do you make your voice app stand out and make it a bit more entertaining, a bit more engaging? So, for example, if you walked into your coffee shop tomorrow, what do you hear? You don't hear the person just talking to you. You hear the surrounding sound, like the coffee machine. You hear people talking, and all these sort of sounds and experiences happen around you. So when designing for voice, think about more than just a response. Think about how can we make this an experience. Like how you would design a website, you wouldn't just have a link. You would have a button that has like a background color and a border radius and all that. It's taking that visual and applying it to voice and creating that experience. So key takeaways from both of us. First of all, optimizing your website for voice search involves having a solid SEO strategy. We're talking mostly probably to SEO people, so it gives you a bit of a boost to sort of take away from this. More companies and people using voice-enabled technology. As we saw, 2/3 of people already have access to a voice-enabled device, whether they know it or not. E-commerce is going to rapidly increase, as we saw with Google Express coming into the market. So again, in-skill purchasing, buying items. And also starting to think about what will the industry look like in a few years' time, and how can you prepare for it today? We know how fast mobile apps came and went. We know how fast websites came and went. And it looks like voice apps are going to be even faster. So it's really thinking today, how can I prepare for this new channel in 2 years' time, in a year's time? And if your brand hasn't developed a voice assistant app, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be thinking about it. You shouldn't be thinking about optimizing a website for voice search. You don't need to have a voice app and have voice search. They're two separate things. Voice search is the way to discover your brand. Voice assistant app is the data engagement. So you might want to just focus purely on voice search, and voice apps might be a future thing. So explore both, and up to you which one you want to go for first. That's it from us. Fine. Yeah.
Sorry.
Thanks for all your time, and we hope you find this useful. Any questions? Or one?